So some South Africans have lost their marbles over March and March, having a meeting with AfriForum and deciding that they will work together. In this video, I'm going to show you what's going on there. If you stay with me all the way till my biblical reaction, I'm going to show you something really powerful that includes you. As you know, South Africa will prosper. You ready? All right. Press like, let's jump in. Let's start with March and March, gate crashing a meeting of the SADC.
A large contingent of police were deployed to the Durban City Hall ahead of a protest by civic movements. The aim of the protest was to draw the attention of African leaders who were converged at the SADC summit to place mass migration at the top of their agenda. They say the movement of people across the region is driven by conflict and economic factors, amongst others. Activists say some African leaders must take responsibility for what they're calling a crisis.
It's to be done because at this given point in time, it seems like the government is for illegal, undocumented foreigners. Why are you not assisting your people in South Africa? Why now you want to come and make a big hoo-ha because of the other African leaders that's here?
The group asserts that their actions do not stem from xenophobia, but instead driven by the need for tighter border controls and enforcement of laws. The campaign against undocumented foreign nationals resulted in voluntary repatriation and deportation of thousands of foreign nationals, mostly from Malawi, Zimbabwe and Mozambique.
It's all in the message of making sure that the government understands that South Africans are tired of being, put through a country of not feeling safe. We want to feel safe. We want to feel protected. We don't mind having foreigners in our country who are properly documented, who are here doing correct things, who love the country as much as we do. Not people sitting here trying to rip the country of all that it has and then knowing that they're going to go back to their country the minute all of it is over.
So as you know, 24 hours ago, a video went viral with Jacinta Ngobese of March and March speaking across languages with Kallie Kriel of AfriForum. And so the backlash includes posts like this: "Good girl gone bad, and AfriForum knows that money is power." White Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum and March and March are now working together. This comes after they went to the US and lied about white genocide in South Africa. So whenever you hear anyone say the term white genocide, it's because they want to dumb you down so that you never think that South Africa went and signed an agreement which allows us to sell over 1,800 products duty-free to America. And when we signed the contract, we agreed that we would establish a market-based economy and we would make continual progress towards that. Well, what have we been doing? We've been making a continual process towards establishing a racial economy. Now, justify it however you want. I'm just showing you what contract we signed. And they don't want you to pay attention to the fact that we agreed to enact policies to reduce poverty. Poverty has increased to combat corruption and protect human rights. So everything that the Americans have been saying about kill the Boer, about expropriation, which is about eliminating barriers to US investment. We signed this and we said we're not going to block you when you want to invest. So they want you to forget all of this, forget that we are led by contract breakers so that we can just be emotional and they're trying to control us. Okay, but back to March and March meeting AfriForum.
Today we've just had a very productive meeting with AfriForum. As you know, there's a lot of issues that they tackle that have to do with dealing with community issues. They've got litigation, prosecution. They're able to help people in different areas. And that is ideally the type of movement that we want to be. And we want to be able to take pride in who we are and get things done and do them correctly without compromising mobilizing our people and making sure that we spend their money correctly where they need us to spend it correctly, and, you know, deliver what government has failed to do. So for us, it's very exciting because we've found a lot of areas of collaboration. We've found areas where obviously we can't agree on everything, but what we agree on is way more than things that we might not even agree on, which we don't even know what those issues are yet. But we're here to learn from each other. We're here to teach each other. We're here to also make sure that the people of South Africa are able to come together across different racial lines and across different traditions and find each other, you know, after all the years of being separated by race and skin color, and find ways of making the country work, because that's what we all want. We want roads, we want schools, we want water, we want buildings, we want a country that is lawful and where everyone can live in peace and in safety. And that's what we're here for, ideally. And we're hoping that today's session is the beginning of a lot of things that are going to be going right for South Africans, and they don't need political parties to do that.
And Kallie went to Newsroom Africa and he seemed to be positive after the meeting.
I must say I have a lot of respect for her with regard to how we spoke in the meeting. I think it was a very constructive meeting. And how it, of course, started is what we all know. All people in this country, except, of course, for the political elite that would continue to enrich themselves, simply want to build a future for their children. They want to live in improved communities, and to do that, we believe that communities themselves should start cooperating to build a future for our children, what we want. And as she's mentioned in the clip, of course, one would never agree on everything, but the important thing is, if we want to build a future, we can speak about issues that we differ on, but there are so many issues that we do agree on, such as the rule of law. There should not be lawlessness. Crime should be taken on. And I think those are the shared goals of the two organizations. And we formed that working group, as you've mentioned, to look at practical ways to cooperate.
And of course, Kallie had to ask the questions that his viewers obviously want to hear answered. And there we go.
There are cynics out there that are going to worry that here is AfriForum. You have been described by someone who himself identifies as Afrikaner, Max du Preez. He's an old journalist that has lived through apartheid, and he's clear about his description of you and Solidariteit, and that is that you long for apartheid, which is what this country has long moved away from. On the other hand, you have March and March. You met not too long ago former President Jacob Zuma, who leads the MK party. Now, his political party has been called out even by people who used to be with him in the ANC as a party that organizes along ethnic lines. Should South Africans be worried that you have one grouping that sees itself as Afrikaner and possibly longs for apartheid, and then you have the other that possibly mobilizes along ethnic lines? Should South Africans be worried here?
No, not at all. I don't think they should not listen to a bitter person that really has no support amongst Afrikaners. Only 2% of Afrikaners, according to research, shares these views. People should also not judge me on what I say or Max du Preez says. Judge us on what we do. And over the past few years, we've built up a track record where we've gone into cooperation agreements with the Barolong-Buseleka community, the Amabele community, people of the Nkungumati community. We've gone into agreements with more than 10 places, and then we do practical projects, agricultural projects, to make sure that we uplift this community. If you look at Gary Nell's work, 95% of the people that he supports are black people. And then you ask yourself, what has Max du Preez done? in terms of uplifting any community. He's done nothing. So we are not going to shy away from what we need to do because of these critics. The fact is, those accusations are not true. It is sometimes used to try and silence you. Max de Pre, for other ideological reasons, don't agree with us, but it's not necessary for him to silence us. We invite him. You also start playing your role because we need everybody. Don't sit on the sideline and criticize those people that are extending a hand of friendship to all the people in this country, saying we want to build a future. We don't long to the history under the National Party, but we also no longer want a future under the ANC. We need communities to say we want to build a new future, not based on the past, but also not based on the route the country is going now. And I think we found a great path in March to achieve exactly this.
Woo, Kriel can fight hard with a very soft tone. So, the Overton window. If you go out to the outsides, you find the unthinkable. It's the stuff that should be outside of political debate. You come just in a little bit, you find radical stuff. That's what activists and fringe voices, you expect 2 to 5% of the population to be radical like that. Then you come to what's acceptable. You find more of us there. And then you get to more sensible, more of us who think. And it comes to what's popular and everyone pretty much supports it. And that's what determines policy and what a country actually ends up passing as law. That line, what is currently possible, can shift to unthinkable things, or it can shift all the other side to unthinkable things, which though they still make it as policy. It just depends on what the outside of it is. So, for instance, in South Africa, we have a debate about kill the Boer. Now, go to all other countries in the world and ask them, do you have anyone who in public on stage can sing kill the whatever and get to explain that no, there's a historical context and their president supports them to continue? That is unthinkable in any country in the world. If you take off your South African hat and just put on a general hat of any other country, you will not find that in any normal society. So that's unthinkable. Yet you'll find in South Africa that's become policy. And I'll tell you why. It's because we have nothing on the other side of unthinkable singing kill the black. And someone says, no, you can't say that. I know, but you could justify it and say, no, there's a historical reason based on a cultural reason maybe or whatever. We know that's unthinkable. And so what happens is when you don't have the madman on the other side, the madman on this side starts to look kind of normal because you have nothing to compare it to. Okay, then you have the radical and then you have the acceptable. On this side, you have the ANC, which is made up of some sensible, some acceptable, some radical. You have the RET faction, which says take the land, take the banks, take the Reserve Bank. That's EFF policy. In any other country, everybody would understand they're radical. Even in South Africa, it's understood they're radical. That's why they only get 10%. But you have no one radical on the other side saying cancel all taxes, cancel all grants, lower all taxes to 5%, because that would be radical. But what happens with the Overton window is based on the voices that are out there, it shifts and it ends up making its way to law. And you can end up with a country that is discussing a really radical, out of its mind discussion about expropriation without compensation. Just name 5 other countries that have expropriation without compensation. You're not gonna. And if you do, they're a basket case of a country. But it's so radical, but because you don't hear the voices on the other side who should have been complaining and saying, change Section 25 and just leave it to market-based. Remove this just and equitable garbage. Remove the word social justice from our constitution. Because in South Africa, we have no one fighting that. You don't actually realize how radical it is that people are discussing expropriation without compensation, or how radical BEE is, because you have no one on the other side saying the opposite. So the meeting between March and AfriForum, the reason why it's causing an explosion in the country is because it's messing with the Overton window. It's messing with what is considered normal. March marches to an SADC meeting. But now remember, the philosophy of the ANC is black people can never be held to account because they are victims of colonization and apartheid. Therefore, don't ever ask a black person to answer for their own failures. And they get to march there and say, well, your people are running here because you made your country a mess. Sort that out. Now, that destroys the narrative. And the narrative also says we are Pan-African and you must never have pride in your own country, because the radicals don't believe in ownership. That's why they want the state to own everything. They want the state to own your hiring department. They want the state to own your partnership recruitment department. They want the state to own everything, tell you what to do in your company. They don't believe in ownership. And now you have March that's made a big noise, and many people have followed them wearing South African flags. You will realize that the ANC has no pride in the South African flag because they are loyal to the revolution, not to the country. And certainly they don't like citizens feeling like they actually own their country. So now you have these two coming together. It also messes the narrative of blacks are victims, whites are oppressors, and therefore they must never come together except to shout at each other as enemies. And she's gone across to AfriForum and said, hey, you learn from us, we learn from you. Like she was saying, let's talk. Guess what happens with the Overton window and what's currently possible? It begins to shift things, and it begins in the people. Because remember, politicians can't just make policy without first winning people's hearts to support a policy. What's beautiful that's happening with this is that a huge movement with a lot of black people who show up for the marches is meeting a powerful movement that represents Afrikaners and says, we're not enemies, let's work. Guess what happens in the Overton window? It shifts it. You may not see how it impacts everything else, but politicians will quickly pretend they never said what they said 5 years before when something stops being popular. And so this is very exciting that the ANC and their ideological hold over the country is breaking before our eyes every single day. And its hold on South African hearts and minds, which only produces poverty, failure, embarrassment, and uselessness, and crime and corruption, is falling apart. And as it falls apart in terms of what is considered sensible, what becomes popular, what is considered acceptable, what is considered radical, what is considered unthinkable, as that shifts, eventually it lands on policy, because what they used to do suddenly makes no sense to the populace, and politicians have to align with it. So a serious message has been put out there that says, hey, we can work together. And they're going crazy because it's too late and they can't erase it. My biblical reaction: who knows the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. You realize that even going in the wrong direction, first of all, you've got to get people to approve of something, and then only later they do it. And the same thing happens with changing a country. You've got to get people to start to disapprove of certain things, and then they start acting differently, which is why in under 14 days, we'll be showing you how to put South Africa on the path to prosperity. And you won't have to change your daily routine. And many of you have already joined the first 1,000 by pressing that, putting your name in there and your email in there and saying, yes, I'm in. And we will see you on the 1st of September, because I have something really exciting for you. You're going to be able to just go around in your daily life between today and 2029 without adding any new thing. You're not signing no political forms, but in your daily life, I'm going to give you something powerful that if we just have 1,000 of you, and it's going to feel good, and it's going to leave a lot of people looking at you like, who's this awesome guy? Who's this awesome woman I just bumped into? And you're going to be walking off feeling like, man, I feel good every time I do this. And not only that, but it leads to shifting the Overton window in our country towards prosperity, where next time we hear something unthinkable or radical that's leading to poverty and corruption, people will go, that's unacceptable. And guess what? Eventually politicians go, no, I never believed that. You never heard me right. What I meant was that. And that's what we are aiming for leading up to the 2029 elections. We don't have to win the whole country. We just have to win 1%. That'll influence 10%. That'll influence 30%. That's more than enough to see our Overton window shifting from poverty and corruption producing ideas to prosperity producing ideas. So I hope to see you at how to put South Africa on a path to prosperity. So no man can serve two masters. Either he'll love the one or hate the other, or he'll despise the one and honor the other. So you can't serve God and Karl Marx. So let's see you there, and let's make history together. Cheers.